Good morning, everyone. I'm excited today to have from Insystech. I've got Miriam Ghafouri. Miriam and the team at Insystech has built an amazing solution that we're going to talk about in a second. That solution revolves around the Freedom of Information Act. For those of you that aren't familiar, there will be a link on the last slide of this presentation to a blog that UiPath put out a couple months ago. There's some 5,000 government people that spend their time doing Freedom of Information Act responses. There's congressional mandates for times that these responses have to be made in. In addition to that, in counties and cities and states across the country, while they don't fall under the Freedom of Information Act, all of them have the same type of sunset laws or sunshine laws that authorize the release of government documents once properly redacted and taken care of and made available to the public. And the interesting thing to me is that number, the number of people who make requests now, is not something that's really manageable. You'd think 5,000 people doing this would be easy, but think the 30,000 emails that needed to be reviewed, and they need to be reviewed, counter-reviewed, and then reviewed by legal. And this response that Miriam and her team has come up with is going to really be a game changer for everybody that works with what the government calls the Access Board. The Access Board is a small team of people responsible for setting out all the 508 compliance requirements. So with that, Miriam, would you take a second to introduce yourself so everybody knows who you are?
Certainly. Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you for having me here with you today. My name is Miriam Ghafouri. I am the Senior Solutions Engineer with Insystech, and we're really excited to talk about our FOIA solution and our RPA components that we've built to use with it.
Perfect. So we're trying to make this a nice 12, 15-minute type of thing, Miriam, so that everybody has time to really listen to it. So why don't you tell us first about what the solution does?
Sure, absolutely. So what we've built here is actually a full-blown case management system. We spent a lot of time understanding the FOIA request fulfillment lifecycle, and we identified a number of swim lanes that are involved in FOIA request processing and fulfillment, everything from the initial analysis and intake to all of the correspondence involved, all of the searching and editing of documents, and down to the time tracking and invoicing. And throughout all of those lanes, we've discovered areas where RPA could be used to either act as a digital assistant or speed up the process or present information and send it off as needed. So we've started with our search and redaction, which we felt were really fundamental pieces of FOIA, and that's what I'm here to show you today.
So have you done any initial analysis? Because if I'm not mistaken, you have an agency that's asking for this. Have they done any analysis on the value that they expect to get from a bot that does this?
Oh, absolutely. We definitely have. We've actually spoken to FOIA officers who are actively working on fulfilling requests and actually use kind of a semi-manual process. So each of these departments have to come up with their own processes to follow, or agencies rather. And we've talked to some FOIA officers who've said that even if they have an archiving system that outputs all of the emails that may contain the information that they need, they still have a stack of files that they have to manually sit there and click through. And so there's still a lot of legwork. Now, on top of doing that, there's the initial analysis that takes place where there may be custodians of certain documentation in different departments throughout the agency. And so there's still a lot of kind of hands that you have to go through before you even identify the set of documents that you need to kind of focus on for that request.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that this was a congressional mandate. Congress actually went back and required all the agencies now have a 4-year plan, show them how they're going to get away from their backlog. Because when this started out, I think 67 or so, there were only 3 major news outlets, and that's where they expected the request to come from. Today, any citizen, and I found out a non-citizen, can make a request. And so the number of requests are just pummeling the agencies. And then the work itself is the epitome of mundane, repetitive, tedious work but you want to protect people's PII data. You want to protect
Right.
information and sources. At the same time, you want to have transparency in government. So it's going to be interesting to see just how fast and rapidly people, uptake your solution. It's an amazing one. Can you give us a quick show of it, a little demo of what it does so people appreciate the
Definitely.
power of what it can do?
Yes, absolutely. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Now, what I'm going to demonstrate is just one kind of context and where a place that we've placed uh, our RPA components into the CMS itself. So just as a heads up, our RPA components are available for integration into existing workflows. What you're seeing here is launched directly from the case management system. So you're going to see kind of like a dashboard, what we see here. And then you'll see me navigate to the requests landing page. We used a pretty straightforward interface. So here, if I were a FOIA officer and I wanted to go to a particular request, I would just click on that request ID. We have all of our tabs that have all the information and history about the request. And I'm going to go to the search. And this is where we're going to kick off our search bot by typing in some search keywords, and the bot will search in the file name and the file contents. I'm going to put in my file path and the file type, and essentially, if I have access to that file path, I'm going to be able to access the output. So the result that the bot has given me that matches the search criteria that I've entered. And in this particular use case, what the notification that we went with was an email, but we could certainly adjust that to be any other type of notification. But you'll see in just a second that after I've started my search, I'm going to go to my email inbox and I'm going to look for the email from the bot that was sent as kind of like the final step of running its process. And that email is going to let me know where exactly my search output was placed. And we'll see that in just a moment. And here I'm getting the actual file path. And so all I have to do is copy and paste that into my browser or my file explorer. So essentially I'm signed into a network where I have access to that particular location. And now I'm going to go ahead and look at one of the files that was processed. And what we're going to see is actually not only the search was conducted, but we also used our Insystech DLP redaction service. So we have over 120 built-in detectors of PII that get redacted. So that's information like social security number and things like that. And I can go ahead and take this PDF and add additional redactions to it. I can add my notes to it, and I can do whatever I need with it and send it off to kind of the next person who might need to review it or anything like that.
Yeah, so that's an amazing, today with that 5,000 people that are doing it, there's probably another 15,000 that support them because someone has to go through and do this first pass.
Oh, yeah.
And being able to, do you run this with what we would call an attended bot or unattended bot or?
So what we saw here was kind of a sort of a hybrid approach. What I did was I triggered the bot using that locate document search, but we could certainly actually do a number of methods. So we could schedule it to run at a given time. We could use Orchestrator to do that. We could go with this hybrid approach, or we could do fully attended by just launching that activity right through Studio.
Got it. Yeah, I would think if you ran it with an unattended bot, did the hybrid attended and unattended, that even the FOIA officers can get some metrics about where their documents are in the process.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. Great. So what was the time to build this? One of those, 18-month projects that you undertook?
Oh, no. No, luckily, actually, our search and redaction bots only took a few weeks to build from start to finish with how they're functioning right now. So we developed each within just 4 weeks. And right now, as it stands, the AI FOIA case management system, it's a little bit more comprehensive than just the bots and their activities, but that one, version 1 was developed in another kind of a few months in addition to that. But right now, if we have any clients that are interested in using the bots, and if they have their own UiPath environments already set up, this is something that we could kind of plug and play and get into your UiPath environment in probably just a couple of weeks.
Wow. That, you know, it really is incredible. For those people that are listening to this and haven't really looked at RPA, when you look at some of the other applications that take agencies a year or more to even get in place,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, the idea that you could come in 2 or 3 weeks and do something that could automatically start giving them return on investment, whether that return on investment is in actual dollars or cost avoidance or clearance of backlog.
Hmm.
You know, if I were an agency and had all of this backlog of FOIA and I could just get to a congressional committee and say, we don't have a backlog anymore.
Right.
Here are the
Absolutely.
goals. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah, and that's kind of another advantage that we saw, was that, you know, we are versatile. What we're producing is versatile, and we can have, if the agency is already using an existing system to process their requests and they just need kind of a digital assistant, you know, a true form of one, we could certainly get that in place for them, just to give them that push or that bump that they need to clear that backlog.
perfect. And so, Aaron, what's the one thing that we haven't told people who are listening and that you would want them to know? Is it roadmap where you think you're going with it, or what it can do that we didn't say? Give us a, as a closing comment, that one last little nugget.
Sure. So, well, I'll talk a little bit about where we plan on going, primarily because I didn't get a chance to show you that. But with the case management system as a whole, we're kind of trying to get to a point where we build a system that completely tracks and audits everything that's going on with these FOIA requests, so that we can implement AI and ML, and we can kind of make it smarter, and hopefully get to the point where, as these requests are coming in, the system can immediately pull up a vetted and redacted document and tell the person, the FOIA officer or FOIA team member, hey, this is probably a good document that might fulfill this request. And so we really want to take it to that level of alleviating as much manual searching as possible. And we're really excited to build in even more AI into the system to handle things like invoicing and time tracking, and you know, just taking it as far as we can.
Right. Yeah, no, this is very interesting. For those of you that just kind of pick up on the end of this idea of RPA teaming together with other digital labor like AI and machine learning and chatbots, that's the direction that the government has stated it wants to go in what's called the American Artificial Intelligence Initiative. And the solution that you guys have developed is really the solution that they need for tomorrow. And you have it today. So congratulations on a really good
Thank you.
solution for everyone. And so with that, we'll just thank everybody for attending. Miriam, appreciate you being here today.
Thank you, Jim. Thank you,
Very
everyone.